I had never felt so utterly swallowed by silence, yet a silence that screamed. The house, that tortured old Victorian relic, seemed to breathe around me in a slow, heavy rhythm, its warped walls pulsating faintly under my skin like a heartbeat. For days, the voices had been relentless, fracturing and folding in on themselves, a cacophony of echoes both familiar and alien. But now, standing at the threshold of the hidden room, I felt the full weight of their power pressing down. The door before me was warped beyond recognition, the wood twisted and swollen as though alive. My hand trembled as I reached out, fingers brushing against the rough grain that felt almost wet to the touch. With a creak that seemed to echo through every corner of the house, the door gave way. I stepped inside. The room was small and suffocating, lit only by a single flickering candle perched on a cracked stone pedestal. Dust motes swirled in the dim light, dancing like lost souls caught in a spectral ballet. Along the walls were strange acoustic panels, curved and scalloped in impossible shapes that bent the sound around them, warping it like the house itself warped reality. Scattered across the floor and shelves were ancient artifacts, weathered books bound in cracked leather, intricately carved wooden masks, and fragments of shattered mirrors. As I moved deeper, the air grew thick with the weight of unseen voices. Then it began, my voice, or rather many versions of it, layered and distorted, fracturing and folding back on themselves. They spoke in whispers, in cries, in pleas barely audible yet impossible to ignore. Around me, the walls seemed to ripple, the sound bending and twisting, pulling me into a dizzying vortex of echoing identities. The livestream viewers' comments surged, texts blinking wildly on the screen as they described hearing their own voices trapped within the feed. Some spoke of chilling messages addressed directly to them, secrets whispered from the shadows. I knew then that I was no longer alone or even the sole voice in the house. The house had claimed us all. I turned to the mirrors lining one wall, fragments, each warped and cracked, reflecting countless versions of myself. Each reflection moved independently, lips parting in silent screams, eyes wide with terror. Their voices overlapped in a maddening chorus, pleading for release or warning me to leave. But how could I when the house had already trapped a piece of me? A sudden sharp pain stabbed through my temples. My own voice broke free from my control, uttering cryptic warnings and fragmented phrases I had never spoken. The walls seemed to pulse in time with the distorted sound, the room itself alive with an ancient, malevolent intelligence. Desperation clawed at me. I raised my camera, speaking directly to the viewers, my voice shaky but determined. If you're hearing this, don't come here, don't listen to the voices. They're not what they seem. The house, it's alive. It's hungry for our voices, our identities. We're trapped together now. Static hissed through the live stream as the voices crescendoed, a final amalgam of sound and shadow. Then, silence. The feed cut out abruptly, leaving only a blank screen flickering with digital noise. Outside, the Victorian house stood silent, dark windows reflecting the night. The air was still, save for the faintest whisper, an echo of a voice, lost but waiting. Behind those walls, the curse slumbered, patient as ever, ready to ensnare the next voice to echo through its halls. The screen stayed black, and the house waited. My hands trembled with a mix of excitement and something far colder when I pressed Start Stream on my handheld camera. Outside, the Victorian mansion loomed like a relic of a forgotten nightmare, its iron gates squealing open as I stepped onto the cracked stone path. I'd bought this house sight unseen through an online auction. The listing was sparse, an estate sale, the previous owners long gone, the house described only as historical but in need of repair. The photos had been haunting. Peeling paint, twisted ironwork, stained glass windows clouded by time. It was perfect for my channel, urban exploration meets paranormal investigation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the overgrown garden, I introduced myself to the camera. "Hey everyone, it's me, Alex," I said, voice steady despite the chill crawling up my spine. "Tonight, we're inside what might be the most eerie Victorian house I've ever set foot in." The house's facade was a masterpiece of decay, elaborate gables twisted against the darkening sky, chimneys jutting like crooked fingers, and windows staring blankly like empty eye sockets. The front door groaned ominously as I pushed it open, the scent of dust and something old and forgotten rushing out to greet me. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of mildew and faded grandeur. My footsteps echoed on wooden floors scarred by years of neglect. I swept the camera slowly across the foyer, faded wallpaper patterned with wilting roses, cracked plaster peeling from the ceiling, and a grand staircase whose banisters seemed to reach out, gnarled and grasping. The dim light of my headlamp cast long, distorted shadows that danced on the walls. "Look at this," I murmured, voice low. "You can almost feel the history seeping from these walls." I moved into the parlor, where warped mirrors hung crookedly, their surfaces rippling like disturbed water. The distorted reflections made my own face look strange, as if the house itself was warping reality. I started narrating for the livestream viewers, explaining the architectural oddities and the rumors I'd uncovered about the house's previous occupants, stories of tragedy and madness whispered in old town records. The viewers' chat lit up with questions and theories, their curiosity palpable through the glowing screen. Then, as I turned toward a narrow hallway leading to the back rooms, I heard it, a faint echo of my own voice, just barely audible, coming from somewhere beyond the camera's view. "Did you hear that?" I asked, pausing. It sounded like me. There was a long pause, filled only by the creaks and groans of the settling house. The echo came again, a whisper of my own words, distorted and distant. I swallowed hard. "It's probably just the acoustics," I said, trying to sound casual. "Old houses like this can play tricks on your ears." The chat exploded with messages. "Wait, did you just hear that? That echo was creepy as hell. This house is alive, I swear." I smiled nervously, brushing a hand through my hair. "Yeah, well, we're just getting started. Let's see what else this place has in store." I moved through the dim corridors, the camera capturing peeling wallpaper, crooked picture frames, and the faint outline of a dusty chandelier swaying ever so slightly overhead. Every step seemed to stir the air, and every creak sounded like a whisper from the past. As I settled into the main hall for a moment, I caught my reflection in a cracked mirror. My face looked worn, shadows deepening under my eyes. The house was getting to me already. Then the faintest sound drifted again, a soft, distant call that sounded eerily like my own voice, but warped, distant, and distorted. I held my breath, straining to listen. Alex, the name was barely audible but unmistakable. I spun around, heart pounding, but the hallway was empty. I forced a laugh and spoke into the camera. "Okay, that was weird, but probably just my imagination." Right, the viewers kept their vigil, their comments flickering across the screen like fireflies in the dark. Some were skeptical, others excited, but all were hooked. I knew then that this house was more than just a forgotten relic. It was a vessel, a container for voices, for echoes of the past, and somehow it had found me. I swallowed the rising tide of unease and pressed onward. This was my story to tell, and the night was just beginning. As I prepared to explore deeper, the house seemed to inhale around me, holding its breath, waiting. And somewhere, far off in the twisting corridors, my own voice whispered back. "Alex," the stream held steady, the chat alive with anticipation. And I knew that nothing would ever be the same after tonight. I adjusted the camera feed, checking the livestream chat as I stepped cautiously into the next room. The warped mirrors lining the walls distorted my reflection into grotesque, elongated faces that blinked back at me with unnatural stillness. The air was cooler here, thick with a scent I couldn't place, something like old wood mixed with a faint metallic tang. My footsteps echoed softly against the cracked floorboards, their sound bouncing oddly, as if the room itself was warping the space around me. "Welcome back, everyone," I said, voice steady despite the knot tightening in my stomach. "Today, we're diving deeper into the house. I'm going to explore some of the rooms that looked, well, a little off in the last stream." My viewers were active in the chat, excitement mingling with unease in their messages. "That mirror looks creepy," one wrote. "Are you sure it's real?" another claimed. "I think I hear whispers behind the static." I laughed nervously. Probably just the old wiring, I replied, trying to keep the mood light. But then, as I moved further in, a strange sensation prickled the back of my neck. I paused, listening. There it was again, a faint echo of my own voice. But this time, it wasn't just a muffled repetition or a random sound bouncing back. It was clear, my own voice calling my name. "Hey, come here," it whispered from somewhere deeper inside the house. I spun around, camera swinging wildly on its strap, eyes scanning the dim corners. "No way," I muttered under my breath. "It's just the acoustics, right?" I pressed on, entering a long hallway that seemed to stretch and bend as I walked. The walls, once straight and confident, now seemed to pulse subtly, breathing in and out like the ribs of some great beast hidden behind plaster and paint. My name came again, this time from the far end, clearer and more insistent. "Hello," I called out, voice tight. No answer, only the faintest rustle of something moving just beyond sight. The chat exploded. "Did you hear that?" one viewer posted. "Sounds like your voice calling you." "Guys, I swear I just heard my own name in the background," another typed. And then the reports began. Viewers claimed their own voices echoed through the livestream's audio, distorted and warped, whispering secrets and sometimes chilling warnings. "I'm hearing myself say things I never said," a viewer confessed. "It's like the house is calling me too." I tried to reassure them, brushing it off as audio glitches or pareidolia, the brain's tendency to find familiar patterns in noise. But deep down, a cold dread began to seep in. I moved toward a closed door at the end of the hallway. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob. Behind it, the voice called my name again, clearer than ever. "Come in," it beckoned. Taking a deep breath, I turned the knob and pushed the door open. The room beyond was pitch black, swallowing the light from my camera's flashlight. I stepped inside, heart hammering in my chest. "Is anyone there?" I called. Silence. Then, from behind me, a distorted whisper echoed through the room, not my voice this time, but something eerily similar, layered with static and something else, something hungry. The house was listening, and it was speaking back. I forced my voice steady again. "All right, everyone, this is getting intense. If you're just joining, we're exploring a house that, well, it's kind of messing with sound in ways I can't explain. Stay tuned." But even as I spoke, the uneasy feeling grew, a weight pressing against my mind. Was this just the house's weird acoustics or something far darker? The voices were no longer just echoes, they were invitations. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to answer. As the live stream continued, I could feel the walls closing in, the house shifting around me. And somewhere deep inside, a new whisper rose, my voice, calling me home. The exploration was far from over, and the house was just beginning to reveal its secrets. I set up the voice recorder carefully on a dusty table in the parlor, the ancient wood groaning faintly beneath. The dim light from my lantern flickered, casting jittering shadows on the peeling wallpaper, the patterns grotesquely warped, as if the house itself were breathing unevenly. I hit record and cleared my throat, trying to steady my shaking hands. "Testing, 1, 2, 3, I said, my voice cracking slightly. The microphone picked up the faint creaks and distant echoes that had become the house's constant chorus. After a moment, I pressed play. The recorder emitted a warped, drawn-out version of my phrase, the words stretched and twisted like taffy pulled by unseen hands. But then, the voice shifted. A lower, sinister timbre crept in, muttering fragments I hadn't spoken. "Leave, never, alone," it hissed, the syllables dripping with malice. I froze. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. Was this some trick of the old wiring, a glitch in the recorder, or was the house answering me? The livestream chat exploded. Comments poured in. "Did you hear that? It said something about being alone. Your voice is changing." I swallowed hard and moved the recorder down the hallway where the air grew colder, heavier, as if the house was drawing a breath. The corridor stretched before me, distorted, the walls seeming to lean in, narrowing the path. Every step I took echoed unnaturally, bouncing off warped surfaces that defied logic. Suddenly, a whisper slithered out from the shadows. It was my voice, clear but not. It called my name, but the syllables were twisted, as if filtered through a cracked mirror. "Come here," it beckoned, but the tone was wrong, hungry, desperate. I stumbled back, heart pounding, but I couldn't tear my eyes from the shifting hallway. The voice repeated, each time more insistent, more distorted, until the walls themselves seemed to pulse with sound. I retreated to the parlor and played back the recordings. The chat was frantic now. "I hear my own voice in the background," one viewer typed. "It's calling my name. This is messing with my head," another admitted. Then, the impossible happened. Amidst the warped playback, a phrase emerged that chilled me to the core, a secret I had never spoken aloud, whispered in my own voice. "You're not safe here." My fingers trembled on the camera as I scanned the room, the shadows twisting into shapes that seemed to leer and leer. Was the house alive? Did it listen? Did it understand? The chat continued to flood with terrified messages. Viewers claimed to hear their own voices, their own confessions, whispered back at them through the stream's audio. The house's influence was bleeding through the screen, invading the minds of strangers miles away. I felt reality slipping, the boundaries between the digital and physical blurring. Every creak, every whispered phrase, every warped echo felt like a trap tightening around me. I whispered into the recorder again, "Who are you?" The playback answered, but not with my voice. A chorus of voices layered atop one another, some familiar, some alien, all begging, warning, and pleading. The house spoke in echoes, in fragments, in the stolen voices of those long gone. The livestream viewers begged me to stop, but I couldn't. I was sucked deeper, desperate to understand this mimicry, this voice that was not my own yet so intimately familiar. And as the night deepened, the house whispered back, louder and clearer than ever before. "You belong here now." The screen flickered. My hands shook uncontrollably. I realized then that I might not be the one telling the story anymore. The house was telling it through me, through every voice it stole. And the voices wouldn't stop. The camera's red recording light blinked steadily, capturing every fractured moment, every haunted syllable. The house waited, its breath slow and steady, ready to mimic the next word, the next secret, the next soul. I was trapped in its endless echo, a prisoner of the mimic's whisper, and it was only just beginning. I could feel it before I saw it, the house shifting beneath my feet, bending the very air around me. The narrow hallway I had been walking down, its walls once close and familiar, suddenly stretched outward like a grotesque accordion. My footsteps echoed, first crisp, then warped and overlapping with whispers I couldn't place. My own voice, layered with others, called my name in tones that twisted into mocking laughter. "Guys, you seeing this?" I whispered to the camera, breath hitching. The viewer count was climbing again, and the chat scrolled faster than I could read. Messages flooded in from people who insisted they heard more than just my voice. Some claimed their own whispered secrets rose faintly through the static. Others described chilling confessions they never voiced aloud. The house wasn't just old, it was alive. Or worse, it was a trap, a living prison that toyed with my senses. I rounded a corner, the dim light of my headlamp revealing the peeling wallpaper, but then the scene warped. The hallway seemed to close in, walls pulsing like a heartbeat. My breath caught as a shadow flickered at the edge of the frame, a figure, tall and dark, mimicking my every step. I stopped abruptly, heart hammering. The figure paused too, mirroring my frozen stance perfectly. Slowly, it raised a hand. I did the same. It mouthed words silently, a cruel mimicry that sent a chill crawling down my spine. "Who's there?" I demanded, voice barely audible over the pounding in my ears. No answer came, only the restless whispering of the house's warped acoustics. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the camera. The chat exploded. "Did you see that? They're mimicking you." I swear I heard my own voice scream. Panic rippled through the comments like wildfire. My screen glitched, the video feed flickering in and out as the house toyed with the stream itself. Faces appeared in the static, distorted, fleeting, and voices overlapped in a terrifying chorus. I forced myself to speak, my voice raw. "Guys, listen to me. Stop watching. Please just stop. This place. It's not safe." But the house wasn't finished. My words twisted and doubled back through the audio, layered with the viewers' voices, their secrets, their fears. The digital space had become a mirror, reflecting not just me but everyone watching, trapping us all in this uncanny echo chamber. I tried to move to escape the suffocating maze, but the halls folded in on themselves. Every turn brought me back here, to this nightmare of sound and shadow. The figures flickered again, closer now, their silent lips mouthing my name and the names of those in the chat. Desperation clawed at me. I recorded a final message, voice cracking. If you hear your voice in the stream, if you feel like you're being pulled in, turn it off. Don't listen, don't look. Get away. But even as I spoke, the house corrupted my plea, weaving it into a sinister lullaby. I'm trapped. The house feeds on our voices, on the fractures between reality and illusion. And somewhere in this shifting labyrinth, I can hear it, my own voice calling back to me. But is it really mine? The screen flickers again, the shadows move closer, and the voices, they never stop. I reach the front door with a pounding heart, the stream capturing my every shaky breath and frantic movement. The brass doorknob felt colder than the rest of the house, slick beneath my palm, and when I twisted it, the door didn't budge. I pushed harder, nothing. Frowning, I stepped back, squinting at the warped wood that made up the door. It looked wrong. The paint, peeling and chipped, seemed to ripple as if breathing, a subtle pulsation that I could almost swear was alive. My voice caught in my throat as a cold shiver ran down my spine. "Guys, the door won't open," I said into the camera, trying to keep my tone steady. "It's like this place doesn't want me to leave." The chat exploded with messages, some sympathetic, others anxious, all frenzied. "Try the windows. Is it haunted? I hear whispers." I turned away from the front door and headed toward the side hallway, desperate for another exit. Every door I tried either refused to open or, when I passed through, dumped me back into the same cramped entryway. The house was a labyrinth I couldn't escape. And then it happened. The voice. At first I thought it was me, but the words weren't ones I had said. The voice was my own, perfectly replicated, but speaking without my control. "Don't trust the walls," it hissed through the speakers, the words dripping with menace. "They remember." I froze, my fingers trembling over the camera. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, barely believing what I just heard, but my viewers did hear it. The chat was exploding now with terror and disbelief. "The house is talking through you," one wrote. "It's alive." I forced myself to move, backing away from the hallway into the dusty parlor, where a faint light spilled through grimy windows. On the floor, partially hidden beneath a threadbare rug, something caught my eye, a corner of yellowed paper. Kneeling, I pulled it free. It was a diary, brittle and stained. The faded leather cover cracked under my touch as I opened it carefully. The handwriting was frantic, looping, and almost illegible in places. "Voices. The walls speak in tongues not meant for the living," one passage read. "I am trapped in the echoes. The mimicry of my own voice drives me mad." I swallowed hard, the words resonating with my own experience. This wasn't the first time someone had been caught in the house's web. The previous owner had been consumed by the same darkness. Suddenly, the camera picked up a new layer of sound beneath my panicked breaths and the creaking floorboards. It was faint, almost a whisper, but unmistakable. "Help me." The chat lit up again, with viewers claiming they could hear their own voices calling out from the footage, some even whispering their names or personal secrets. A viewer named Silent Echo typed frantically, "It's in the audio. It's calling me by my childhood nickname. How is this possible?" My skin crawled. The house wasn't just trapping me. It was reaching beyond, pulling something from the viewers themselves, pulling their voices, their identities into its twisted architecture. "Guys, I don't think this is just about me anymore," I said, voice cracking. "This place. It feeds on us, our voices, our fears." Another involuntary phrase slipped from my lips, captured live and unbidden, "Leave now before it's too late." The chat erupted in panic, viewers begging me to stop the stream to get out. But the house had other plans. The ceiling above me seemed to pulse, the walls groaned like living things, and shadows stretched unnaturally long. I backed away slowly, every instinct screaming to flee, but the doors remained shut tight. The house had spoken back, and it was hungry. I had never felt so utterly swallowed by silence, yet a silence that screamed. The house, that tortured old Victorian relic, seemed to breathe around me in a slow, heavy rhythm, its warped walls pulsating faintly under my skin like a heartbeat. For days, the voices had been relentless, fracturing and folding in on themselves, a cacophony of echoes both familiar and alien. But now, standing at the threshold of the hidden room, I felt the full weight of their power pressing down. The door before me was warped beyond recognition, the wood twisted and swollen as though alive. My hand trembled as I reached out, fingers brushing against the rough grain that felt almost wet to the touch. With a creak that seemed to echo through every corner of the house, the door gave way. I stepped inside. The room was small and suffocating, lit only by a single flickering candle perched on a cracked stone pedestal. Dust motes swirled in the dim light, dancing like lost souls caught in a spectral ballet. Along the walls were strange acoustic panels, curved and scalloped in impossible shapes that bent the sound around them, warping it like the house itself warped reality. Scattered across the floor and shelves were ancient artifacts, weathered books bound in cracked leather, intricately carved wooden masks, and fragments of shattered mirrors. As I moved deeper, the air grew thick with the weight of unseen voices. Then it began, my voice, or rather many versions of it, layered and distorted, fracturing and folding back on themselves. They spoke in whispers, in cries, in pleas barely audible yet impossible to ignore. Around me, the walls seemed to ripple, the sound bending and twisting, pulling me into a dizzying vortex of echoing identities. The livestream viewers' comments surged, texts blinking wildly on the screen as they described hearing their own voices trapped within the feed. Some spoke of chilling messages addressed directly to them, secrets whispered from the shadows. I knew then that I was no longer alone or even the sole voice in the house. The house had claimed us all. I turned to the mirrors lining one wall, fragments, each warped and cracked, reflecting countless versions of myself. Each reflection moved independently, lips parting in silent screams, eyes wide with terror. Their voices overlapped in a maddening chorus, pleading for release or warning me to leave. But how could I when the house had already trapped a piece of me? A sudden sharp pain stabbed through my temples. My own voice broke free from my control, uttering cryptic warnings and fragmented phrases I had never spoken. The walls seemed to pulse in time with the distorted sound, the room itself alive with an ancient, malevolent intelligence. Desperation clawed at me. I raised my camera, speaking directly to the viewers, my voice shaky but determined. If you're hearing this, don't come here, don't listen to the voices. They're not what they seem. The house, it's alive. It's hungry for our voices, our identities. We're trapped together now. Static hissed through the live stream as the voices crescendoed, a final amalgam of sound and shadow. Then, silence. The feed cut out abruptly, leaving only a blank screen flickering with digital noise. Outside, the Victorian house stood silent, dark windows reflecting the night. The air was still, save for the faintest whisper, an echo of a voice, lost but waiting. Behind those walls, the curse slumbered, patient as ever, ready to ensnare the next voice to echo through its halls. The screen stayed black, and the house waited.